I'm back for another podcast, and I've got another special guest. I have Matthew Birkby with me. He decided to take time out from doing a 15 years with electronic artists. He's doing new stuff. He's planning some new stuff, but he was the global media director. So, Matthew,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you.
What possessed you to decide to venture into a new world after all of this crazy stuff that we've had for 2 years?
Well, like I've done 15 years at EA, many different roles, and that's a long time. And pandemic was also a moment for us to all think about things. Now, I am not part of the Great Resignation. I'm more of it was a moment for me to take stock. I'm at a point in my career where I could take a little step back, reevaluate things, and kind of explore a little bit for me, and to also look for some other opportunities. EA was an amazing place. I learned so much. I pivoted my career in so many different ways there, but now was the moment to I don't know whether it was bravely step back or step forward or whatever it was, but I'm exploring things, and that was the moment. It was perfect for me.
So when you joined EA,
Yep.
and this is where my age might creep up with me.
Yep.
We were still on some consoles that no longer exist, right?
So I joined EA, and the PlayStation, we were still making games for PlayStation 2. PlayStation 3 hadn't launched in the UK. Xbox 360 was still a thing, and everyone was excited by this new phenomenon from Nintendo called the Nintendo Wii.
Wow.
And I had to use some crazy website to find a Woolworths. Actually, I got it from Woolworths.
Oh, wow.
So that tells you. And the other random thing is I didn't have a Facebook page.
No, Facebook didn't exist.
I was all about MySpace.
Oh, wow. So oh, wow. There's some people watching it and go, "What's MySpace?"
Exactly.
Oh, so you entered social media, and you're now really discovering LinkedIn again.
I am.
From the journey of a CV site to a social platform.
Yep.
And your new MySpace.
It's that.
What do you like about LinkedIn?
I think the first thing I like about LinkedIn, or that I'm liking and rediscovering about LinkedIn, is actually it's more than just CVs. So this is going to sound really bad, but the first app that I open in the morning now, this is so bad, is LinkedIn, because I get a peculiar blend of people and news for my industry. And one of the reasons that I left EA is because I'm passionate about the media industry, and there wasn't another space really, unless that I could get all of the news in one place. There wasn't a space where I could meet people, and so that you have this interesting dynamic of people sharing knowledge, publishers publishing as they always have done, and you've got this melting pot of real people talking about real things that I'm interested in, which is why it's the first app of the day that I open, which is terrible.
When I do a workshop, I ask people, when you wake up in a morning, do you turn and look at your other half and think how privileged you are to have them in your life, or do you pick up your phone and see what happened overnight? And usually everybody just grins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% agree to that, because clearly I'm looking over to my wife and saying, yes, I'm a lucky man.
We didn't kind of rehearse this question. So we didn't rehearse this at all, but this wasn't on our pre-discussion. But as a senior decision maker,
yep,
in a very well-known brand name, you must have seen some of the annoying stuff of LinkedIn, right? Let me.
Can you sort of dive a bit deeper on what you would consider annoying?
Did you get a lot of generic sales pitches?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of email outreaches that were relevant?
100 irrelevant. So much that was irrelevant or the wrong moment.
And did you find that some of it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so disagree with me
Sure.
I often say that if you're, given that we're in such a cluttered world now, everybody's time is sapped, that you either have to create that curiosity, like you discover something,
Yep.
or you have to have such an A game message, like it's unreal. There's no middle ground now. You either have to provoke somebody with content or have such a razor sharp message in the inbox. What do you take on that?
So the first, I think the first thing is that, yeah, for a long time LinkedIn was 100% just random messages from random people, and usually it was ad tech for me personally. And I will say that I never responded to any of it because it's just not, it wasn't the right way to approach it. I think what you're really describing is, to a certain extent, just a classic advertising, classic media. You know, you either got to have the thing that person wants at that moment in time, and they've already got to know about it in some way.
Yeah.
Or it's got to be phenomenal in some form or another. And really, is, you know, you mentioned cluttered. Is your LinkedIn inbox really the right place immediately to just fire off straight away with a pitch for a piece of ad tech that I may or may not want, or a service that I may or may not want at that moment? I don't think it is. I don't think that's the right approach. Now, if you have a thing and you're publishing and my curiosity, to your point, is like, that's kind of interesting. I think you can, that there's a it's, I hate to say it's a softer sell, but it's a more genuine thing. Like, get to know the person, but you either pique their interest and then get to know the person, or get to know the person and then slowly introduce the thing. But don't just come in with like, buy this thing from me because it's amazing and it's going to solve your life problems, or whatever it is, your objective, because that's just never, that hasn't worked for me personally. And I would say is, I feel as well, I feel for people whose targets are set in that kind of manner, because I don't know, like I just don't, I don't think that sales technique works anymore. And to be honest, did it ever really work? I don't know. Like, what was it, just a numbers game?
Well, I think, you know, there's an element of any sales or marketing that involves numbers, but when you think about, you know, if you have a 19, you know, the numbers on kind of cold messaging is it's a 1%, less than a 1% success rate.
Yep.
Now, if I was going for a job interview with you, right, and you said to me, what's your success rate as a salesperson? And I said about 1%, you wouldn't hire me.
It's not a great conversion rate, is it?
No, but because that 1% might be worth 100 grand or 50 grand, we forget the 99.
Yep. Fair.
But I argue, and coming to your point about LinkedIn is this kind of place where people are, information is, you know, you can find news, and it's this kind of bubble of lots of different things in one place, which I don't think other social platforms have in the same way.
No.
I think you'd be more successful with the 99 if you actually built the relationships, because some people would hear you out just because you're a nice guy or a nice person or what have you.
But to be fair, the canny salesperson always, I suspect the most successful canny salespeople always did that anyway.
Yeah.
Even before digital, even before we were doing this. Like my wife at one point or other, she would hate me for saying this, sold cars on the forecourt.
Wow.
And it was all about getting to know the people. Like, there was some classic, from the story she told me, some classic car salespeople. But where she found most success was just understanding, being polite, get to know the person. Don't do the hard sell there and then, because I think it's the same. It has to be the same. And to be fair, there's a certain element of priming as well. You have to prime someone through it. I would say, and that's no different than whether you're selling on LinkedIn or you're looking for business on LinkedIn, or if you're creating a video game. One of the things for us is, with Prime, we're building the memory structure in someone with advertising to eventually, at some point, you are going to buy that thing, whatever that game is, because it's already there. We just got to remind you.
And that's the same really in sales, marketing, advertising. Is instead of trying to, I'm sure you didn't sit in EA going, how can we find the 100,000 people or however many you sell, million people who'll buy this game? What you went out and said is, we know that this is the market, the size of the market. How can we get that market energized about this game?
That's certainly one part of that would be one part of the funnel that we would be working to. And I think that's transferable, that concept is transferable across industries, across businesses.
So coming to the way the world's, we've said, like, the sales piece has never really changed. It's always about relationships and doing all that stuff. What do you see about kind of advertising, marketing that has changed, and that maybe you can see stuff on the horizon that's going to shake things up a bit?
I think the first thing I'd say is conceptually advertising hasn't changed. Like, human beings fundamentally have not changed. They haven't evolved. Like, we don't evolve in 10 years, in 50 years, in like, it takes a little longer than that. So we like to think that we do, but conceptually we don't. We're all the same. And so we've seen obviously the rise of digital has been phenomenal. I think what's fascinating for me personally, and an area that I explore a lot, is the influencer space. I think that's going to become, it's already regulated, but it's going to become more regulated as the concept of what influencer is and isn't starts to change. And why I think that's interesting for advertising teams, for media teams, for marketing teams is where does that sit? Does that sit within does the investment for those teams sit within the community, the influencer teams? Does it sit within the media team? Should there barriers be broken down between those teams? So that I'm really fascinated with. And then to anyone who's obviously within the media and marketing space, the changing regulations around privacy, around the deprecation of the cookie, this is not new news, but it's going to, within the next couple of years, that's going to rapidly change. I think what that means then is how we work with our consumers' data evolves. I think we'll start to see more and more. We are seeing more and more partnerships. I posted something on LinkedIn I saw yesterday, which was from a company called InfoSum, the clean room. There are other clean rooms. I'm also a big fan of Habu, amongst others. The brands working together in a privacy safe manner will accelerate, and the challenge there over the next couple of years will be, who manages that, who's responsible for that, how do you get the legal teams involved to make this happen at speed? So that's going to be a really interesting thing. And then you'd be sticking your head in the sand somewhat if you hadn't heard of the metaverse and Web3 and NFTs and all of that side of things. Now, lots of brands are exploring conceptually what that might mean for them. Personally, if you were thinking about the bell curve of adoption, I think we're really early. I think it's a really interesting space. Mass adoption, not sure yet. Virtual reality mass adoption, I think we're a few 100 million units away from adoption. Like, if you think about, I don't know if you ever bought a 3D TV. I never bought a 3D TV because with the glasses and my eyes, it's just never going to happen. But the thing I think about that is that the mass adoption never really happened, and they sold loads of those.
Mhm.
If you think about virtual reality, Meta or Facebook or whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
sell a lot. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's just a time frame
Yeah.
of when that happens. And then the challenge becomes as well for the broader public, everybody, is, so you say metaverse, but what do you mean? Do you mean, like, is that Roblox? Is that Decentraland? Is that some thing that Meta's making in Reality Labs? Like, what do you mean? And because you can't easily explain it,
Mhm.
I don't know whether the adoption, like, I think we're much sooner. It doesn't mean that brands shouldn't experiment, because I think it's a really fascinating space for experimentation and for new experiences. And if you think about, I'm gonna say something terrible now. If you think about Gen Z and younger, and Gen A, um, it's perfectly natural for people to play in these spaces, and so they are going to move through and become parents at some point.
Mhm.
And so the concept of meeting people, experimenting, going and watching a concert, going and playing in, I don't know, in Nike space, or being in Spotify space on Roblox, that's going to be entirely natural to them.
Mhm.
But the mass adoption where we're all walking around in AR and VR glasses and things, I don't know. I'm slightly like,
I was talking to somebody on Facebook about digital marketing, and I said, where do you see this will go? And there was one rather bold digital marketer on there who said, "Oh, we're already gearing up for this.
mhm,
We're building our lab out." And I'm like, "For what?" It reminds me of, and I'm going to show my age,
yep,
the Blu-ray versus HD CD or whatever it was called.
yep,
I can't remember what it was, but they were both running, and nobody really knew which way they were going to land. And it feels like at the moment there's an idea here, there's an idea here,
yep,
but there's not really a kind of, so what does this actually mean? And Elon Musk said, we both wear glasses. I had an Oculus thing and loved playing on it for a little bit, but then had the difficulty of going, actually, this hurts my eyes.
mhm.
And I'm like, I just, I get it. I understand it, but it feels like the world doesn't exist for it. It feels like there's a social media platform there with no users.
I think that's a fair observation. I think the thing that we might say is that, here's the thing. So I remember talking to my dad a long time ago. Why would I use Facebook? Why would I tell someone that I'm having a pint? Why would I do that? He's on Facebook all the time now. I'm like, why are you still on Facebook? Like, why are you still doing that? And I wonder if it's not that it's, I think there's different ways to connect with people. And I think the whatever augmented reality or virtual reality or holographic technology, because that's also a thing that we don't talk, there's not being talked about, but I think is fascinating. Like, imagine if you and I, rather than seeing each other through a flat screen, there was a hologram of Dean in front of me, and I think we'd get a more visceral, oh god, I sound like a marketing person there, a more visceral human experience. um but I think there's this is just the next step in technology.
Mm.
um and I think that everyone gets excited about it, and then there'll be a moment of disillusion, because there always is with this technology.
It's like the dot-com bubble, isn't it? There was
It
like,
is that.
oh,
It's that entirely. And but I would say is, if you look at science fiction from 30 years ago,
mhm,
and that's not that long ago, really. Like, you and I are probably wandering around with this communicator device in our pockets.
yeah,
And 30 years ago, they'd have gone, "What? What are you talking about? What, you're going to be able to video phone me? That can't be a thing." And so that's why I'm kind of like, okay, there's people pushing for this. They might be looking for a solution to a problem that doesn't necessarily exist, but the concept of connecting people in ever more visceral ways is interesting. And then I'm trying to get my head around the decentralized community thing at the moment.
Yeah.
I kind of see that that's a really interesting space. And then if you keep flowing on that, the concept of blockchain overall, like transparent ledger, whatever that is, between two parties, and particularly in advertising, like the supply path from when you see an ad to when I bought it on a pop, it's so opaque. It's going to, like, there's so many things that are just not quite right. If there are so many interesting things that it could solve problems for, that would then enable the world to be a nicer place. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's actually the thing. Our trust in so many institutions has fallen by the wayside, that human beings are looking for connection with people that think and around the world that is more visceral than doing it through a flat screen. And I would say as well is, I don't have the imagination to imagine what it could be. I'll be holding on, like desperately holding on, like I will be on every single thing. But at the moment, I think it's probably too hard.
It's too intangible at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, 100%, 100%. And it's too hard. Like, to your point, like, if I have to think about putting that thing on my head, all of those other things, how do I then sell you that? Whereas if we go all the way back, whether you like or dislike what Steve Jobs stood for, the concept that Apple had with the iPod, like the idea of me saying to you, right, you've got 1,000 songs in your pocket. Oh, that's great. That's a really easy thing for someone to like, that's that, oh, wow moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether we've quite found the, oh, wow. I'll still be going in and having a laugh. And like, you know, I was in the Spotify Roblox space the other day. Don't really know what I'm doing in there. I feel a bit weird being on Roblox, but like, I need to understand what the platform's doing. I have an Oculus fund. I refuse to just go out. I refuse to just go out and buy one. Like, I could, I refuse. So I'm like, just whenever I sell a thing on eBay, it's like, okay, that's going in the Oculus fund, and I will just then go and buy that. So I will get that one of those as well, because I want to experience it. And see the potential benefits. And I just love that brands are pushing into these spaces, knowing that maybe there's not a tangible benefit right now, but I bet they're learning a ton of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to see, like, I've thought about, how does ads work in the metaverse? How does that whole piece work? And I've thought of the weird ones where you're literally walking through a room, and of course it's hello Dean, and another person all creeps up and it's like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't want that. But there must be, you know, but I was listening to a video from somebody, I can't remember who it was, and imagine you're walking down a street in the metaverse.
Yep.
And suddenly all you see is one particular brand.
Yep.
And people are drinking that brand and the billboards of that brand, but none of the people are real that you're seeing. And it's like, how do we, this is a bit kind of heavy duty probably for a podcast, but as a human,
yep,
the fact that we see holographic or image representations of people drinking a drink that aren't real, the whole thing's constructed, but the impression is still in our heads. That's quite scary.
It is, and it isn't.
Well, we see it in commercials all the time.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say. And in fact, even, you know, I know not all chatbots are great, but like when I go through my mortgage thing that I have to do in June, I'll go through a mortgage provider that I know is going to put me through a chatbot to begin with, and I'm quite comfortable with that. I think, but you do touch on something, and it does trigger a thought in my mind about, okay, so you're in this space, and it's all one brand, and the people there are going, "Yeah, this is amazing." How do we ensure that Dean knows 100% that that's an ad?
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be clear, and this comes a little bit back to the influencer space before that I mentioned. Is have to be very clear that it's an ad in some form. Like someone needs to know these are like, I'm seeing an ad here, and so we have that, which then brings me onto legislation. The people legislating wherever they are in every territory are going to have to be very clear around the rules of this. We have rules around advertising for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's to ensure that the industry abides by certain standards, that we don't that we're ethical, and actually that we do the right thing.
I mean, when you think about it, human beings' perceptions are very vulnerable.
Yes.
And effectively, we're getting into a very dangerous time where we can't tell what's real and what isn't.
That's fair.
But given that the metaverse is, and blockchain is aimed to be decentralized.
Yep.
How do we protect ourselves from being, you've seen the deep fakes.
Yep.
And some of them are getting really good. I watched a guy on TikTok who does Tom
Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Yeah. And it's like, oh, other than you look a bit too young. Yeah. But you start to realize that the reality, we're not really sure what's real anymore.
We're not. And I, that I think that's where you start to, I think brands will start to, with industry, start to legislate for that, but also to say responsible brands will say, okay, we're not going to do that type of thing. And if you think about brands moving into more ethical spaces at the moment, I suspect if we were to look 5, 10, 15 years ahead, the brands will have a perspective on what's the right thing to do. So in the same way that brand safety is really important for us, and not funding content that funds hate or terrorism, I suspect that what you'll see is brands also being very clear about where it is that they stand in that space. Now the challenge becomes is that the internet, the metaverse, Web3, whatever you want to call it, the ever-expanding mind of technology beyond, isn't always necessarily the most ethical space. And I think that that becomes then it's important for all of us to make sure that we understand as much as we can, that we try and educate ourselves. You think about this as a, I could roll it all the way back to what video games companies do to try and help parents understand about the safety features that are built into consoles, so that they can stop their children playing with people that they shouldn't be playing with, or spending money on things. I think people are going to expect that from brands, but it is down on us to also, I don't know whether be educated is the right phrase, but like, don't blindly go into this new world going, yeah, it's all going to be lovely. Like take a moment of trying to understand a little bit. It's coming. I think that's the thing. It's coming.
I think the world goes around in circles.
It does.
We go round in cycles, and I hope nobody misunderstands me here, because I don't mean how this may be perceived. But in the early part of the 20th century, or even late end of the 19th century, a lot of businesses did have some values.
Yes.
Yeah. And not every business, but there was a sense of, people would, dealt with in a particular way. And then, there was business values,
Completely.
handshakes and things like that meant something. And then I think we went into a phase kind of post-war where it got a bit more slick, a bit more grifterish, shall we say.
That's a tough way of expressing.
No, but things like, you buy an insurance policy that actually in the terms and conditions, it's sold as an insurance policy for this, but when you try and claim, it's worthless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's buried in terms and conditions. We saw that with the pandemic, loads of people having insurance for various things, and then, oh no, this doesn't count. So I'm not saying that everybody's out to cheat people, but I think business values generally just eroded with the make money. And you can hear about companies making billions and billions and billions, but they're paying people minimum wage. And I think this cycle, whilst technology is involved, humans are still driving that cycle. And humans will come back to, actually, we want to invest in brands that care, which is a bit like Woolworths many years ago.
Bringing it all the way back to Woolworths. Oh, that's funny. It's like John Lewis, the John Lewis partnership. I think there's another interesting thing that's emerging is that brands are also now starting to have a point of view on many topics. And I think one of the other aspects to it, and this is to bring it back to sort of a more, I suppose, a business aspect, is, if you think about growth usually comes from a couple of places, from investment, from product, all of those standard things. But one of the most important things that a brand has is the people that work for it.
Mm-hmm.
And people expect you to have a perspective. People expect a brand, a company to have a perspective. And if you want to hire the brightest talent, or the most diverse group of amazing people, they're going to want your company to have a point of view and to have a set of values and to live by them. And I think you start to see that emerging more now with the erosion of trust in other entities.
Mm-hmm.
The erosion in trust in government, in journalism, in advertising, in one form or another. But if you want the greatest talent, you're going to have to start to think about that, and that's your values. That's how you think about people internally. That's how you focused on inclusion, on sustainability, all of these aspects for a business, large or small. If you want the best talent, you're going to have to think about that, and those values will flow through all the way into then you growing your business. It does seem intangible, like it doesn't seem like a logical thing, but actually a lot of what a brand is or a business is the people behind it.
And actually, if you look, just to kind of keep going back in time, a lot of the businesses of old, many of them who don't exist anymore, let's just put aside the cultural changes we've had in society for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not get into that bit. But if you look at a lot of the old brands that used to exist or still exist in some form, they started out with a mission.
Yes.
They wanted to do something.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of companies now, they're lost in the world of we make things, and now that whole thing of the purpose behind something is coming back. What's the big mission that personally people can go, yeah, I'm in for that.
Yeah. And they want that. Your employees want that in one form or another. And certainly as you start to pull in a younger generation, expect that. If you're not thinking about that now,
mm-hmm.
you should be, because you won't attract the best and the brightest across the spectrum. I, you know, I'm quite passionate about that. I think it's a really important thing for people to be thinking about. And you know, I saw that change
Mhm.
through my career. This was not something that was really, you know, when I think about when I way back when I started work, like it's just not a thing. It's just not a thing that people would really talk about, or and have a perspective on. And now you go all the way now, and they do, and I think that that encourages people to enjoy work more. Work is more than work. I think that's the other thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're paid to go and do a thing, but it's so much more than that. It's a richer
Well,
thing that you're going to. So
you
you want to reflect that.
you think about it, you know, you work, and effectively the best, most active years of your life, you trade.
Yes.
Yeah. You think about it, you get your youth in school and you learn all this stuff, then you go to work 40 hours, which always ends up more because it's always that way.
Yes.
And then you reach the peak where you kind of like, you've done so well, it's now a slippery slope downwards. Uh, and,
Oh, no.
and basically you go, I've devoted my life to exchanging the most energized part of my life for this.
Yes.
The money was great, but did you do anything? Did it mean anything?
And I think, you know, if you start to wonder, and I think that's why people want purpose, they want values, they want brands, they want companies to stand up for something, to include people, to think about the sustainability. Like, so, there's so much. It's such a rich topic,
Mm.
but it definitely then, you know, you start to then, you know, if you flip it back into the metaverse, you start to then there. You know, I don't think any brand, any company ever says, right, we're going to do the worst things that we can ever do. We're going to like like, I don't think anyone ever set out like, well, I hope they didn't, but let's just imagine that they didn't. And then for whatever reason, you know, it was all whatever, and profit was good, you know, all of that side of things. And profit is good. Profit drives growth. Profit leads to all kinds of innovation and all kinds of things. But if your employees, if they're not into it and company B is going to do those things and they feel proud to work there, I know where I'd work. I'd go and work for the one with the purpose and the values and all of those things. And then, you know, in the end, brand A, which was just about the profit, over the long run, I wonder who's going to survive.
Yeah. So thinking about that,
Yes.
you've you've ventured out into the unknown.
Yes.
You're taking some time to kind of rest after a 15-year slog.
Slog's a tough word, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it had moments of slog.
yeah, 15 years of, you know, to be fair, not a lot of people, if you think about it, not a lot of people are involved in a business, one business for 15 years these days. So
No.
being in something for 15 years is incredible compared to, you know, most people's, I think the average job lifespan now is 2 years before you change to something else.
Mhm.
But that's an incredible change of, you know, certainty, being around people and an organization you understand, and a workflow and a pattern to your life that you've kind of decided to change,
Yeah.
and you're taking a little bit time out to kind of appreciate what that change might be. But what's next for you? What are you looking to do next?
So so thank you for describing it like that. I never thought that I'd be there for 15 years. First of all, I would just say that, and it didn't feel like 15 years because every couple of years I was doing something different. I was, you know, I hate to use the analogy of that climbing wall because everyone uses that these days about their career, but mine really was that. I was literally like, oh, I'm interested in that. I'm going to make that grab over there. But for me, I'm taking this time to actually get fit, which I've neglected. I've neglected a little bit, but I'm now back out there pounding the streets. But no, I'm looking to take the things that I've learned across my career into and into another brand, or to help other brands. And I kind of I hesitate to say directly brand, because I am thinking, is it brand side? Is it agency side? Is it ad tech platform side? Because I have a kind of it's unusual to have a media career where you've touched all aspects of media and advertising. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for brands that interest me. So I spend a lot of time on the LinkedIn in the job space. I have all the alerts set up, of course. But equally, it's for me at the moment, I'm in a position where I don't need to jump at the first thing. I'm spending a lot of time talking with people. I'm having interesting conversations that I'm actually finding intellectually stimulating, which is great. And we'll see where I end up. It's kind of fascinating at the moment. We talked at length somewhat about the metaverse and places. Advertising, media, marketing, it's never been more interesting.
Yeah.
It's like there is so much happening, that for anybody who's listening in any kind of space, there's so much now. Like if you're thinking about making a move and you want to, you should, like, I can recommend it. Like, I actually saw someone the other day, and then they said to me, I've never seen you so happy. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I'm allowing myself the time to really be quite deliberate with where I end up. And I'm very, very lucky. I'm in that position to do that. I know also lots of people are not in that position, so I also acknowledge that. But I suspect I'll be at a brand in some form, in some sort of media role. But we'll see. You never know. I might go and become a yoga teacher. I'm not going to become a yoga teacher.
You never know. You might be the head of the Spotify space at Roblox.
You never know. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
I actually did a podcast recently with the head of talent for Roblox.
Really?
Yeah, so I can give you a word in if you want.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. They're like, so the random thing I'll tell you is I did just short of 2 years in the US for EA, and I literally lived like a stone throw from the Roblox office. I always wondered, like, how are they making any money? Now I know.
Yeah. Cool. So you're exploring LinkedIn.
Yes.
You're having a look on there so people can come find you. I'm assuming, other than if they want to try and sell you something, you're great to explore and get to know different people.
100% open to conversations, and I would say, even if you're on the sales side of ad tech platforms, like, I'm happy to. I've had conversations in the last month or so with ad tech vendors, really just talking philosophically about where they're at, because I think those vendors are in it for the long game. And at some point they're like, he might think that he might need this thing, or his team wherever he ends up might be interested in this thing. So we'll have a conversation. But what I'd say is, they didn't try and sell me anything. They were just like, let's have a chat. Like,
yeah,
this is where the space is going.
Yeah. LinkedIn is the new black book, as they say, or the new Rolodex.
I think it is. I think it is. And I would say is, I kind of wish I'd got into it earlier. I know there's no perfect time, and I'm glad I'm in there sharing and connecting with more people now, but I wish I'd done it sooner, because it's allowing me to, even though I'm stepped back from the industry, it's allowing me to stay connected with the industry, and just meet some really interesting people that I should have probably known already.
Absolutely. Matthew, this has been brilliant. I may see you on the metaverse.
I think you may. I'm just going to drag you in and be like, right, okay, Dean, get your Oculus headset. We are going on a ride.
I am genuinely interested to see how it unfolds. I can't see the applications yet.
Mhm.
If somebody explains an application, I can go, I get it. Like the blockchain and moving house, or you know, buying something on the blockchain, that makes sense because it's a bit more transparent
Yeah.
than how we do commerce now. So I get that application. I honestly don't get NFTs. I think
Uh,
it's the current NFTs.
yes, I would say, I think NFTs are interesting. I cannot afford the ones that I'm interested in. And there does seem to be a large amount of vanity around NFTs, but I love the idea. I was like the guy that set up Reddit, who's Serena Williams's husband. It's funny, I always refer to him as, oh, he's Serena Williams's husband. But he started, he's got this new venture company, and there's this company that's created, I think it's called Americana. They've created this chip that's going to enable you to have an NFT for anything. So like I'm into shoes, so Nike maybe put a chip in the shoe, and it can be anything. It could be a shoe, it could be a skateboard, it could be a camera. It basically then creates that digital definitive version of it, and enables then, in theory, either the company who owned it could take, when I sell it on, they could take a transaction, but it's like it validates it
Mhm.
so much more. And like in the world of sneakers, for example, there are so many fakes
Yeah.
in the reselling space. If Nike could put a thing in and they could 100% guarantee that that was definitively the real shoe, there's application there. And then for art, I can see that. But am I going to spend $300,000 on a Bored Ape and more? Probably not. Am I going to spend 30 grand on artifacts, shoes? I'd love to, the digital shoes. I don't have the money.
Yeah, and we'd have to figure out how to wear them.
Well, that's the thing is I think there's this could go this could go elsewhere, but if you think about the concept of ownership, the concept of ownership has shifted somewhat from the physical to the virtual.
Mhm.
And you know, if you think about, I don't know if you have a Spotify account. I'm all on Apple Music because I'm in the ecosystem, but most people I know are on Spotify. You don't technically own that stuff. You're
Mhm.
sort of renting it, and even if you buy, you don't technically own it in the same way. And so the idea of ownership has changed. And I think what that means then, hopefully they can edit that cough there out. Um, the idea of ownership has changed so that in the virtual world, you don't need to physically own the thing to say that you own that thing. And so you and I could trade it.
Mhm.
And I think that people are more comfortable with that now. Whereas before, you'd be like, no, I definitely want these shoes that
Yeah.
I'm holding up. And that's different.
Did you see? Did you see the guy who bought Jack Dorsey's original tweet
I did. Oh
for
well.
$2.9 million and then couldn't sell it for $280?
And that's the problem. Like it had intrinsic value to him at that moment for 2.9 million. But to you and I won't pay 10p for it.
Yeah.
And clearly the rest of the world wouldn't pay more than a few
I
$1,000.
can download a copy of it from Google Images.
But it's not the original. It's not the original. And so, but I think it changes. But it's just this concept of ownership has changed, and I think we'll see that as we move forward. The fact that there could be in the virtual space one of one is interesting. The fact that you've got a JPEG of it, it's not the one of one. You know, and maybe that's like I don't know, like if you think like you could go and buy a Monet for 50 million. Well, I couldn't unless I win the lottery. Or you could go and buy a print, or you
Mhm.
could download it, but you have the original.
Mhm.
And there's probably maybe Andy Warhol's better, a better way of framing that. than necessarily Monet with all of the paint and stuff. But you know, that is definitively, that's the original. There will be many copies, but you have that, and I think that's where it is. But I think we're in this weird NFT bubble at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, and we won't talk about the sustainability aspect of it either right now.
We'll wrap up with this one, but I got a message on LinkedIn the other day, and it was called they were basically selling a service called Native. Oh, I need to look this up, because it was like, what the hell are you talking about? And then after Googling it for a while to figure out what it was, it was like, you're basically offering a pump and dump service.
That's so bad.
And it was like, I didn't know what it was called. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then somebody said, oh, Google it, put the word crypto next to it and Google it. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh my, here it is. Native shilling.
Oh my.
So you can buy people who will go on social media and rant and rave about this to pump the price up so you can sell it to some sucker and make some money.
And that is breaking the influencer rules.
Yeah.
Because conceptually that's there for influencer market. If somebody's been paid for a thing, but yes, that's so bad. That's so bad. But then we will end. Isn't that just what Elon does?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
And it is Jordan Belfort, just round another digital version of Jordan Belfort, really, isn't it?
It's anyway.
Well, Matthew, I look forward to seeing where you end up.
Thank you.
I'll keep tabs on you on LinkedIn. If you've enjoyed this session and you're curious to find out more of Matthew's thoughts and to know more about why he's got skateboards on his wall, he will tell you if you ask him.
I will.
You can connect with Matthew on LinkedIn. We'll put a link to Matthew's profile somewhere here, somewhere. But thanks for joining us today. And Matthew, really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you, Dean. It was great. It was great. Thank you.